Intelligent people are dangerous, not because they'll hurt you physically, but because they hold up a mirror to something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. And when people see what's actually there, everything changes. Schopenhauer understood this 200 years ago when he noticed something that modern neuroscience is only now confirming. The smarter someone is, the more isolated they become. Not because intelligent people are difficult or rude, but because their presence activates a threat response in the brains of those around them. Think about it. We celebrate rich people. We celebrate beautiful people. We celebrate strong people. But intelligent people? Something different happens. There's a quiet resentment, an unspoken discomfort, and nobody can quite articulate why. The answer Schopenhauer discovered goes to the deepest level of how human psychology works. Today, we're breaking down why intelligent people frighten society, not as an ego boost for smart people, but as a psychological framework for understanding the hidden dynamics that keep brilliant minds isolated and why society resists truth. Because here's what Schopenhauer realized: intelligence is a mirror, and most people hate mirrors. The first principle is called the mirror effect. Intelligence doesn't just know things, it sees things. It perceives patterns that others miss. It questions assumptions that others accept automatically. And when someone intelligent is in a room, people unconsciously measure themselves against that intelligence. They feel the gap, and that gap is painful. The psychological principle here is called status anxiety. When you're in the presence of someone who appears superior in a dimension you care about, your nervous system registers threat. It's not a conscious thought. It happens automatically. Your amygdala, your brain's threat center, activates. And it activates the same way it would if you perceive physical danger. But here's the dark part. This threat response is stronger in groups than one-on-one. Because when other people are watching, you worry about your relative status. Your brain cares more about how you appear to others than how you actually are. So intelligence triggers a primal fear response, and that fear gets amplified in social settings. The second principle is called the illusion infrastructure. Schopenhauer understood that society is built on shared illusions. Illusions about meaning, about success, about happiness, about purpose. And these illusions are necessary because they allow people to function. If people saw reality clearly, they would recognize it as suffering, conflict, and struggle. So instead, society has built an infrastructure of distractions. Religion promises afterlife. Entertainment provides escape. Social media offers validation. Consumer culture offers temporary satisfaction. Ambition promises fulfillment. Romance promises completion. All of these are illusions designed to keep people from seeing what's actually there. The psychological principle here is called cognitive dissonance management. Your brain works overtime to maintain the illusions that make life tolerable. When something challenges those illusions, your brain rejects it. Not because it's untrue, but because accepting it would destroy the framework that allows you to function. Intelligent people are threatening because they don't need the illusions as much. They can see the mechanisms of the illusions. And when they speak, they risk breaking the spell for others. The third principle is called the burden of clarity. Schopenhauer said that the capacity for feeling pain increases with knowledge. The more you understand, the more you see that disturbs you. The more intelligent you become, the more you recognize suffering in places others don't see it. You see the suffering in relationships built on illusion. You see the suffering in careers spent building things that don't matter. You see the suffering in pursuing goals that won't satisfy. You see the suffering in the human condition itself. The psychological principle here is called existential awareness. Most people live on a surface level, reactive to immediate stimuli. But intelligent people have developed the capacity for abstract thought, for seeing patterns, for understanding systems. And this capacity brings awareness of things most people never contemplate. Death, meaninglessness, the inevitability of loss, the futility of many pursuits. This awareness is painful, and people don't like being around those who carry this awareness because it's contagious. Proximity to someone with existential clarity can trigger existential anxiety in others. The fourth principle is called the herd instinct. Schopenhauer observed that most people think like a herd. They don't think independently. They absorb the opinions around them. They adopt the values of their group. They follow what's popular. And they do this not because they're stupid, but because independent thinking is dangerous to group cohesion. The psychological principle here is called conformity pressure. Humans are intensely group-oriented. Our survival historically depended on group membership. So our brains are wired to detect deviance, to marginalize them, to keep the group aligned. When someone intelligent questions the group consensus, they're triggering this ancient survival mechanism. The group perceives them as a threat to group cohesion, and the group responds by excluding them. This happens unconsciously and with moral justification, but it's really about maintaining group unity. The fifth principle is called the competence-likeability tradeoff. Research shows something fascinating. The more competent you appear, the less likable you become. Because competence is threatening. It highlights others' incompetence. But if you hide your competence and appear simple, you become more likable. The psychological principle here is called threat reduction through humility. If you act dumb or simple, you're signaling to the group, I'm not a threat to your status. I'm not challenging you. I'm not superior. You can relax around me. But if you display intelligence, you're signaling, I see the gaps in your thinking. I understand things you don't. I'm different. And the group, unconsciously, recognizes this as threat. The sixth principle is called historical vindication too late. Schopenhauer noticed a pattern. Visionaries are rejected while alive, then celebrated after they're dead. Tesla, Galileo, Hypatia, Van Gogh, Thoreau, all were ridiculed, marginalized, or worse while living. But decades or centuries later, society recognizes their genius. The psychological principle here is called temporal reframing. When someone is dead, they're no longer a threat. You can celebrate them, learn from them, build statues to them, without worrying about your relative status. But when they're alive and saying challenging things, they're threatening the comfortable illusions. So they're rejected.
A woman who challenges assumptions is seen as aggressive. A man who challenges assumptions is seen as intelligent. Same behavior, different perception. This double brain keeps intelligent women particularly isolated. They mean the principle is called the modern amplification. Schopenhauer lived in the 19th century when ideas spread solely through books and lectures. But today, ideas spread instantly through social media. And social media favor simplicity, emotion, and controversy over nuances, so the rejection of intelligent people is amplified. Ideas can require context, nuance, and thought carry drawn it out. Simple, catchy. Emotionally stimulating content winner. The intelligent person is careful reasoning nonsense but their provocateur as emotional triggers. The psychological principle here is called attention capture. Your nervous system evolved to data create an opportunity. Simple threats trigger faster responses than complex understanding. So social media algorithms amplify threats and emotions while suppressing norms. This creates an environment where intelligent discourse is literally selected against. The principle is called the Dunning-Kruger amplification. Research shows that less intelligent people overestimate their intelligence while more intelligent people underestimate theirs. This status of region. People who know very little dismiss people who know much more. The psychological principle here is called confidence-competence misalignment. The person who knows just enough to have a strong opinion is the most confident. The person who knows a lot recognizes how much they don't know, so the less certain. In group setting, confidence is often read as competence. Also, the overconfident person is trusted while the genuinely knowledgeable person is doubted. The 11th principle is called the solitude solution. Schopenhauer advised intelligent people to seek solitude, not out of misanthropy, but out of necessity, because intelligent people suffer in shallow social settings. They need depth, intellectual engagement, complexity, more social interaction, in surface level. Most conversation is repetitive and trivial, so intelligent people either suppress their nature to fit in, or they withdraw. The psychological principle here is called cognitive fit. Your mandate stimulation that matches its capacity. A brilliant mind stimulated only by small talk, and to cities like a powerful engine running on fumes. It causes frustration, boredom, and alienation. So intelligent people naturally gravitate toward solitude or toward other intelligent people. It is not misanthropy. It is self-preservation. The 12th principle is called the illusion shattering effect. When an intelligent person takes a truth that breaks an illusion, something shifted. People experience what Schopenhauer called the moment of clarity. They serve the mechanism of the illusion that they can't unsee it. And they often blame the intelligent person for breaking the spell. The psychological principle here is called cognitive closure theory. People need their worldviews to remain stable. When something challenges that stability, it triggers anxiety. And when someone is the agent of that challenge, they become the target of resentment. The intelligent person is resented for being real. They resented for making people uncomfortable by revealing things they didn't want to say. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Schopenhauer himself experienced exactly what he was describing. He studied his university lecturer at the same time as the famous philosopher Hegel. Assuming his superior ideas would win. Instead, Hegel is led to respect the house while Schopenhauer as second thing. He realized that what he would write about forever, people don't want the truth, they want comfort, and intelligent people threaten that comfort. So intelligent people face a choice, suppress their nature to be accepted, or remain true to themselves and be isolated. Most people choose suppression, at last for a while. Some eventually choose isolation. Very few communities of like-minded intelligent people. Here is what most people get wrong about Schopenhauer as observed yet. Fitting, the was saying intelligent people are superior and therefore rejected, but that is not played here. He was saying that intelligence brings awareness of things that destabilize comfortable illusions. And people, unconsciously, recognize this threat and respond to it. It is not a conspiracy. It is an automatic social immune response. Society has an immune system designed to detect and eliminate threats to social cohesion. And intelligent people who question assumption activate that immune response. The 13th principle is called the money-making difference. Most people outsource money to external sources, religion, culture, family expectation, consumer culture. They absorb money from their environment. But intelligent people often question these inherited money. They ask, is this actually true?
Does this actually matter? Is this what I actually believe? The psychological principle here is called meaning autonomy. Intelligent people tend toward meaning autonomy, creating their own meaning rather than inheriting it. But this creates isolation because everyone else is operating from inherited meaning. So the intelligent person is speaking a different language than everyone around them. The 14th principle is called the suffering awareness. Schopenhauer believed that suffering is fundamental to existence. Pain from unfulfilled desires, pain from loss, pain from awareness of mortality, pain from the futility of many pursuits. Most people manage this awareness through distraction, but intelligent people have a harder time sustaining the distraction. They keep noticing what's underneath. The psychological principle here is called existential burden. The capacity to understand abstract suffering, not just physical pain, but existential pain, is correlated with intelligence. So intelligent people carry a burden that less intelligent people don't carry. The awareness of existential realities that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The 15th principle is called selective vulnerability. Intelligent people are more vulnerable to mental illness like depression and anxiety. Not because intelligence causes mental illness, but because awareness of existential realities is depressing. The psychological principle here is called depressive realism. Research shows that depressed people have a more accurate perception of reality than non-depressed people. They see through comforting illusions. They acknowledge difficulty and futility. They're more pessimistic, but more realistic. This is the burden that intelligent people carry. They're less able to sustain the comfortable illusions because they see through them. Now here's the part that will hit hardest. You might be intelligent, and you might have noticed that you don't quite fit. That people around you seem to be playing a game you don't fully understand. That conversations feel surface level. That you feel simultaneously superior and profoundly alone. That nobody really gets you. If so, understand this. You're not broken. You're not arrogant. You're not cold or aloof. You're someone whose intelligence has made you aware of things most people never see. And that awareness is isolating. But it's not weakness. It's actually evidence of capacity. The capacity to understand reality more clearly. The capacity to question assumptions.